Hi guys, today I'm going to be talking about scrapbooking panoramic photos, and if you have a smartphone, chances are it has a panoramic setting so that you can take these awesome panoramic photos. I have an iPhone, so I can show you how you access this setting on your iPhone. So I have an iPhone 7 Plus. But all of the recent iPhones, the last 3 models that I've had, have all had this feature. So even if you've got an older iPhone, and I'm sure that Android phones and other phones do this as well. But basically, down here you have all your options for video, and then regular photo, portrait photo, square, and pano. So pano is what you want. You kind of like orient yourself. So if I want to take a panoramic photo of my scrap room, for example, I would probably want to take a couple of steps back so that I can see it in a proper perspective, but I'm just going to do it this way so that you can see how it looks. Basically, you press and release the button, and now it is making that panoramic photo, and now you just kind of keep on. I'm going to move it, even though you're not supposed to move it up and down. I'll tilt it a little bit so that you can see. And now the further I keep going, the wider my panoramic photo will be. So I'll just show you how that one looked, just for a little example. So I'll give you a couple of tips on it. So see how this one didn't turn out very good because I was tilting it more in order to be able to show you guys. So you can see that my ATG is kind of broken up looking, and the angle is kind of wonky because I took it so close to the subject matter. So panoramic photos are really great to use for taking when you've got a large scene that you want to capture. Another tip for using panoramics is that you want to move your phone continuously, and you want to make sure that this white arrow right here is lined up with that yellow line. So you don't want to, I'll just show you what you don't want to do. I'll press record, and what you don't want to do is kind of like go like this. Like if the more you move your phone, see, it won't even take it because I was moving it too much. But what happens is that the more you move your phone, the more wonky the picture will be. So as long as you take your photo so that you follow that line, and the slower you go, the easier it is to follow the line, and you'll have a really nice picture. Now, I'm kind of swinging my phone. I'm still following the line, but I am, oops, I went off of it a little bit. So I kind of swung my phone, so the craft mat here looks like it's got a bit of a dip in it, but that's just because of the way that I swung my phone there. But that's an example of a pretty small panoramic. You can go all the way up to 360 degrees, and so you can capture a complete full 360 panoramic if you're in like it would be really great to do if you were like on the top of a building or at a really scenic place like the Grand Canyon or whatever the case might be. I will show you some of my panoramic photos just to give you a sense of the kinds of photos that I like to take panoramics of. So these are all of my panoramics, and if you have an iPhone, it automatically keeps your panoramics in a separate folder. So here's my panoramas right here, and I have a picture here of the bathroom that was trashed, I guess, by our elf. And so it was the kind of thing that I couldn't capture the full mood of the picture in one photo, and I didn't want to take multiple photos, so that's why I took a pano of that one. And then this is a really cool beach scene. Let me just turn on my... So this is a really cool beach scene that I just wanted to capture how busy and crowded the beach was. I thought it was really beautiful. And what else do I have here? So this is another photo that I took just of a roadside scenery that I thought was really beautiful. I just thought that the scene was really beautiful, and this is one that I took, you know, almost 180. So this is the road here, and then the road is also over here. So these people are also on the side of the road. And then I took some doll pictures, and then this is a picture of Crop and Create from several years ago. And it just kind of captures all the people in the room. This is a pano of the cottage where my kids stay with their grandparents. This is a pano of us at our train table. What is this? A mall scene. Oh, this is the Barbie display in Montreal. And again, you wouldn't be able to really, I wanted to get more than just like this center. I wanted to get kind of like the atmosphere. So panoramics are great for really capturing the atmosphere. This is one of the ones I'm going to be scrapbooking. And then I often use panoramics to capture my scrap space because it's like so much is along the walls that it's really hard to capture it otherwise. This was another really great scenic scene to take with a panoramic. Another roadside. That's the same roadside, but at a different time of year, the same stop. And I don't know what this is. Oh, these are some photos that my international student's dad took. This is a hotel room that I stayed at. This is an art room that you do splatters. And then this is Peggy's Cove from yesterday. So those are the kinds of times that I like to use panos. And I do have a fair number of panos in my camera roll, as you can see. I'm going to insert some video right here that talks about how I print up my panos. First of all, I have to apologize because I'm filming my computer screen with my phone. I know that this is not the best way to do a capture, but it is the easiest way for me to do a capture, and I want to get this video done and posted pretty quickly, so my apologies for that. So a lot of people ask me questions about how I print my photos that I print at home, and how I make them specific sizes, especially when I print unusual sizes. So because today I'm using a panoramic photo, I thought I would give you guys a little bit of information about it. I just go to the Photos app, which is this one right down here. Can you even see where I'm pointing? I can't see because of my tripod. Anyhow, it's right down here. It's just the Photos app that comes on your Mac. So a lot of this is really specific to Mac users, and I understand that not everybody uses Mac, and probably a big portion of you guys don't use Macs. But in whatever software you use, you just have to, I'm choosing my large format printer, so I'm choosing my Canon Pro 100 printer. I'm choosing 13 by 19 inch paper because it's the paper that I have that's bigger than 12 inches. And then I'll change this when I go into to actually print it. And then I choose custom, and for me, custom is right here, but it might be different depending on where you're printing from. And then down here are the details about the customizing of it. Okay, so as I was editing my video, I realized that I wasn't quite clear about how I shot this part. So this is going to be inserted, so I may be using a different picture here. I hope that this doesn't complicate matters even more, but I am in my Photos app, which is the app that allows me to manage my photos. So this is where my photos automatically go on my Mac. And then I have pressed Control P or went to File and then Print from the menu. And this is what comes up. So this is the print window. And so it says right here, print photo on one page. And it gives you this preview right here. And then all of these options over here. So one of the options tells me which, I'll highlight it with my cursor here. So one of the options tells me which printer I'm choosing, and so I could choose my Pro or my PictureMate. This is my upstairs printer, so I never choose that one. But because I'm printing a large photo, I'm going to use my Pro, which is my large format printer. And then this is where I choose the paper size. So I've chosen 13 by 19 paper, which is the paper that I need to print on, as I mentioned. This says photo on plain paper. I can change this later, so I just leave that. And then this is the part that I wanted to point out for you guys. So in the Photos app, and I'm sure that most photo management applications are like this, where you get all these different options for how to print it. Like this one will fit it so that it just fits on the paper without cropping anything. And this one will fill it, which means it will fill up the paper, which necessarily means it will crop. Unless if you happen to have a photo that is the exact size of your paper, or the same aspect ratio as your paper. Then there's one called Custom, which is the one that I'm choosing. Then there are these other options, which I don't know why these options are in there, but it's 20 by 25 centimeters, 13 by 18 centimeters, 10 by 15 centimeters. Those must be some standard sizes for something. And then contact sheet. And contact sheet, I actually have the option to change how many columns there are. So you can see that the more columns I have, the larger my little contact sheet preview shows. And I mean, in this case, I only have one photo selected, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to print contact sheet, but sometimes it's nice to use contact sheet if you're printing a whole lot of small photos and you don't mind them all being the same size and shape. But what I'm choosing here is custom. And then when you choose custom, you get to pick what size you will print it at. And now I'm going to pick up on my other footage where I left off. So it says aspect ratio custom and then photo size 12. I basically put in the 12 inches and make sure that this is set to inches and not pixels or centimeters. So it might be set to something different as the default, but I always switch it to inches. So then I always put in 12, and then you have to play around with it. I've already played around with it to figure out that I need it to be 12 by 3.7, but basically all that I did was I just experimented. So I started with 4, and when it's 4, you can see the image up here is cropped too much, like I'm missing the most important part of it, which is Melissa. And it just doesn't give quite as much impact if I crop it down. I want this to be as skinny as possible, just to really emphasize the shape of this photo. So with 4, it's not quite enough. And then I tried with 3, which really kind of like cuts it out too much. And then I can show you here, hang on. How do I get to show that? So here I can't really see all of the rocks in the foreground and also the sky, and I want to be able to see all of everything. So 4 was too much, 3 is too little. So then I tried 3.5, and 3.5 looks pretty reasonable, but you can see that there's still quite a bit of wiggle room there, which I'd rather capture the whole thing if I can. So I just kind of played around with it and found that 3.7 seems to be the magic number. So with this one, there is a little bit of wiggle room here. See that? So you can wiggle it a little bit. So I could probably, I don't know if it would be 3.75 or what it would be, but I'm just going to go with 3.7, and then I'm just going to make sure that I position this photo so that I can see most of, I really like seeing her kind of hair blowing right here. And so I want to make sure that that's included. So now I'm just going to send this to print. It will print it right here. Let me zoom out. It will print right here at my printer, which is right there, and it's already loaded with some luster paper. So that's how I print a panoramic photo, and depending on how much of a panoramic photo you took, like where you started and then where you stopped, it will be different heights. And so, so you can't just kind of say, okay, now I know that panoramics are always 12 by 3.7, because it would be different for every photo that I took, depending on my starting and ending point. So you will have to do some experimenting in order to print your whole panoramic photo. So I have a couple of examples of layouts that I've made using panoramic photos, so I wanted to share those with you first of all. The first one that I want to show you is one that I did in the spring using the Freckled Fawn mixed media kit and some other things too. So for this one, which there's no process video on my channel for this one. This is a video that I made for my Patreons. And so for this one, I can tell you a little bit about how I made it and why I made it this way. So this is a panoramic photo, believe it or not. It doesn't look like a panoramic photo because it is, you know, not as long as what you would expect it to be. But I still use the panoramic feature on my camera. And I can't remember, because I made it so long ago, I can't remember if I just trimmed it down to be this size, because I might have included more of my scrap room here and more of my scrap room here, but I just decided that I didn't need that in order to tell the story that I wanted to tell here. Or if it was always this size, like it could be that I just did a smaller capture, like I started it here and I ended it here. So if I had taken this photo with my phone, just using a landscape regular mode, I would have only been able to capture either just the girls or just my spot or some weird like kind of half and half of each. And I really wanted to show that there are two distinct work surfaces, work areas in my scrap room at this point. It's not like this anymore. But I really wanted to capture this story of my daughter and her friend doing their own little traveler's notebook scrapbooking process video over here while I was doing my scrapbooking process video over here. And so in order to capture that, I really needed to use the panoramic feature. So it wasn't so much a design element of wanting to use a long short photo as much as it was just needing to tell the story. I could have taken a series of photos, but I really love the wide angle look that you get when you use the panoramic. So these things are much closer to frame and these things are further away, and it really emphasizes by distorting it a little bit. Then you can see that the wall is not really straight as it would be if I had taken just 2 regular photos or a series of regular photos or even just 1 regular photo. So I really like that about the panoramic feature, and I just wanted to point out that you can use the panoramic feature in a much less extreme way than, you know, something like this, which is quite an extreme example, which I'll talk about in a second. So for this page, I used some stuff from my stash, and I used some stuff from the Freckled Fawn Mixed Media Kit that came out in February. And I just basically made the bottom half of the page be the photo, and then I scrapbooked up here on the top. And I really love doing that with large photos. It's one of my favorite things to do, is just put the photo on the bottom and scrapbook up here. It's a really easy way to use those large photos that you might have, whether it's professional photos. That would look good like this as well if you had like a professional portrait photo or something. It's one of my favorite go-to designs for large photos. So I just wanted to point out that this, and you know, if this was a more typical panoramic, I might have, you know, it might be down here. You could use the same thing. Like if I had a long, narrow photo here, I would just move everything down, and I'd end up with more room to scrapbook and do some journaling. So that's the first example of kind of like a less extreme panoramic. So this is my next example. When I use panoramic photos, I really like to emphasize the wide nature of the photo. And in this case, it allows me to capture all of the beauty of Peggy's Cove. The town is off in the most, like in the very distant background. And then all of these rocks here are rocks that we climb on. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see, but there are thousands of little Inukshuks right through here, which are little statues made out of rocks. And there's like thousands of them. They're all over the place. And it's just so beautiful to take it all in. And so this is a photo, and actually it's a candid photo, so Melissa did not know that I was going to include her in this photo. So it looks like she's posing there, but she's actually just taking it all in. So this is a very natural capture, and I really like that about this picture. And so using the panoramic, it allowed me to capture both the town and the water and all of the rocks. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the lighthouse in because the lighthouse is out here a little bit further, and there's often people by the lighthouse. And so I really wanted to capture the vastness and the empty, like the fact that there are no humans showing in this picture. And so if I had included more of that, there would have been people over there. And so that's why I kind of cropped it the way that I did. And so because of that, I wanted to make sure I got the iconic lighthouse into this layout that's all about Peggy's Cove, which, you know, is the iconic lighthouse. It's the most photographed lighthouse in the world. So that's what I did with this one. There's a process video for this page on my channel, and I just wanted to speak to a question that somebody had on this video, which was, why did I use the green tag here? And I thought that was a really good question, and I actually meant to, that reminded me that I actually meant to talk about something in the process video, and I completely forgot to talk about it. So I thought I'd speak to that right now. So in the process video, I do talk about using these strong horizontal lines to give my layout a lot of structure, and then I talk about using the clusters as a way to kind of like soften those lines. But what I didn't talk about is how I did something very, very different on this layout compared to what I usually do, which is I didn't follow design principles very closely, in that I didn't do the same, I didn't quite follow the rule of repetition as closely, especially when it comes to color. In terms of, I didn't bring any pink down here and I didn't bring any green down here. Green is only up here and pink is only up, though there's pink in the background, so pink doesn't really, but also this purple color only shows up here. It doesn't show up anywhere else in the page. And so I really didn't follow that design principle as closely on this page. And then the other thing that I didn't follow as closely is balance. So this page is not as balanced as I usually like my pages to be, in that this cluster up here has a lot of very large pieces underneath of the photo, and they're very layered on top of one another. Whereas this cluster down here has nothing really large, everything is pretty small, and everything is spread out instead of being layered. And so that provides an unbalanced kind of look to this page. I actually really like that unbalanced look because I think that the strong horizontal center of this kind of grounds the page and kind of makes it work, for me anyways. I just really wanted to throw caution to the wind and just say, who cares about design principles? Let's just do what I want here. And so that's what this page is all about. So I just chose the green circle because I just liked it. It was a circle, and I do really like that shade of green. And so if you were wanting to really follow the principles very closely, then maybe one of these stars could have been green or something. But I just really liked the pop of color, and I don't think you always have to follow those principles. So that's why I did that. But thank you so much to the viewer who asked that question, because not only was it a good question, but it also kind of triggered my memory that I meant to talk about the fact that these are actually layered quite a bit differently. So these are really overlapped and these are spread out. And that's not something that I normally do. So I thought that I would speak a little bit to that. So then I have this, which, oh my goodness, this is probably my favorite page that I've made in a really long time. I love this page. So the process video for this is over on my Patreon channel, but I will speak a little bit to how I made it so that those of you who don't have access to that page can enjoy this page just as much as I do, because I love this page. This page is a very different color scheme than what I usually do, but I love warm color schemes. I love browns and reds and oranges and fall colors, and I don't get to scrapbook with them nearly enough just because the scrapbooking industry doesn't make a lot of those sorts of products. And so I fell in love with this Rhapsody collection by Photoplay when I went to Crop and Create. And so I bought the collection and I did scrapbook with it in Crop and Create, and I may have even done a page since I've come home, but I really haven't used the collection very much. And so what prompted me to use that collection on this page is the iron in the, I think it's iron, but whatever it is in the water that makes these rocks turn this orangey brownish color where the water is. I kind of picked up on those brown tones in the water. It's not dirty water, it's just that there's minerals in the water. And I wanted to kind of start with brown and orange and navy blue. So I started with this pattern paper here. I knew I wanted to use the triangles on the top and bottom corners of this page. And then I just pulled some of the colors out of there, like the navy blue, and there's pink, and then the orange, and there's some greens that pick up from the green in the trees, and then I picked up on the green in the title work as well. And this is a page that features lots of really strong lines, and I wanted it to not be horizontal just because I had just made this page and I knew that I wanted to talk to you guys about using panoramic photos. And panoramic photos are a little bit challenging because they are so horizontal, so you kind of have to go with a strong horizontal line somewhere in your page. And I did talk in this process video about how you can either emphasize it by really going with it and emphasizing the horizontal and putting lots of horizontal elements, Or you could try to balance it off by maybe putting a horizontal element and some vertical elements as well to kind of give it a bit more balance. And I went with emphasizing instead of balancing. But in this case, I wanted to do something that wasn't really horizontal. So I decided to go on the diagonal. Now what that does is it actually allows me to scrapbook a photo that is longer than 12 inches. So this one is 16 inches from tip to, I did cut a little bit off of it, so it's probably more like 15.5 inches wide. And that allows me to, instead of, this is 12 inches wide. So if it was 12 inches wide, see how the photo would have been much smaller and I wouldn't have been able to see quite as much of the detail. But by making it bigger, it has a lot more presence on the page, like the photo has more presence on the page, and I can see more of it because it's bigger. So I just kind of went with those diagonal lines, and I just love this page. I love this collection so much. It's so pretty. It has this kind of bohemian, earthy feel to it. And I just added a couple of soft elements to soften up the strong geometric lines in this one. So I put a little banner sticker right here. I used some butterflies that have like a soft feel to them. And then I used some of these embellishments that have a softer feel, like this dreamer has a curved feel to it, just to emphasize, I guess just to balance off all of the strong lines in this one. So this one was really, really fun to do. And it also illustrates another reason that I like to do panoramic photos when I'm taking photos. I chose to do this one in panoramic because I really wanted to emphasize how alone we were. So you can see that this photo spans, I think, more than 180 degrees, and there is not a soul in sight except for my two kids and their friend. So this is actually not a person. I don't know what that is. I think it's a rock that sticks out or something, but it's not a person. So using the panoramic photo really helped me to tell my story in this. It's kind of like we were on a hike and we just went into the old swimming hole. So, which brings me to this photo that I have left over. So this was originally what I had printed to do this layout with, and I just realized as soon as I decided to do it on the angle that this photo just wouldn't hold up. So I held on to this just to tell you something else that I sometimes do with panoramic photos. I haven't done it lately because I'm not doing Project Life right now, but what I have done in the past is I have taken a panoramic photo like this. I might cut it into 3-inch kind of photos and then have it span across the center of my Project Life, or I might cut it in half if my kids weren't right there in half, and have it span across two 4x6 pockets or something like that. The other thing that I have done in the past is I might kind of just crop it like this and put it in a 4x6 pocket by itself, or I might print it out so that the whole thing fit on a 4x6 page, and then it would be very, very tiny, but it would also really emphasize that long nature of this photo. So panoramics are really fun to work with in Project Life, and there's lots of different options for either using them with different kinds of page protectors, like with different pocket pages, or to kind of cut it up and have a panoramic span different pockets is a really fun way to do it as well. So I hope that you found this video helpful for getting some ideas on how to use panoramic photos in your pages, in your scrapbooks, and make sure that you check out the process video for this one called Explore Peggy's Cove. So I will link to the Flickr albums for these two projects that don't have process videos on my YouTube channel, just in case you want to take a closer look at these. So those will be in the information section below. And then I will also link to the process video for this one, which is Explore Peggy's Cove. Take care and have a really great scrappy week.